Yes. Welcome to Satsang, everyone. And welcome to Satsang for the friends around the world. Today we are recording with my computer, so I want to know if you can hear me and if you can see me. But I think you can, right? Good. We had a wonderful weekend, the last weekend, the silent retreat, and we tried for the first time to have it parallel, to have the group here and to have a group on Zoom. And I was totally amazed how deep it went. It was almost like we had a big screen here, and it was almost like everybody is sitting in this room, and they could ask questions or comments. So modern technology, but I still prefer person to person. It's the wrong way to say it. I prefer the no person to no person in the body meeting. Why do I say that? What are we here for, in a way? At least why I am here for, is to remind myself and to remind everybody else that perhaps we are much more than the person, much more than our story, much more than our program, much more than our experiences, much more than the content of consciousness. And the way to actually explore this, there's so many ways. It's like on the weekend, and some of you have done courses with me, I've been presenting this map of the layers of the mind in relation to our true being. And the true being is kind of that white center where there is nothing. And I'm sure every one of you had more or less experiences that when you penetrate any experience inward rather than going to that which triggers the experience, which is usually outside, then we move through many layers. The first and most obvious layer, because we are suffering, is of course the identity, the false identity, that lens through which we see reality, and we don't see reality, we see our mind, and then behind the mind is reality. But our vision is very blurred because we are actually seeing our own thoughts. And then when we meet somebody and we have thoughts about the other, it has not much to do with the other. It's our projection on the other. Are you with me there still? It's a human weakness or a human gift, because it creates suffering that we then want to get rid of. So all the therapists kind of live off that. Mm-hmm. Is anybody any therapist here? I, there's nothing wrong with it, because therapy, in a way, helps to make the layers of our personality more transparent. But more and more, I think a radical shift is possible, where, you know, if you have done therapy like I did, it took me about 25 years to realize that all my patterns are still there. But something changed. That there's a certain awareness or a certain distance and less identification. So I apparently get less triggered. I only know that through the reflection of people. From my perspective, I think I've always been the same. Do you have that, that something in you has always been the same since you can think? Yeah. Now that is your true self. That is your true essence. That's your true being. It's very simple. No? You don't need to kind of meditate for 20 years and sit in the cave to realize that there's only one aspect in our humanness that is unchanging. And because it's unchanging, it also doesn't start anywhere. We are becoming aware of it when we can start thinking, maybe. And obviously it doesn't end anywhere. That's why it took me ages to understand what Osho wanted to have written on his samadhi. Never born, never died, only visited this planet from then and then to then and then. And at the time I was confused. I said, this is nonsense. Of course he was born. Of course he died. Because I still was totally identified with my person, with my upbringing, with my story, with all the patterns, with everything that I've learned. No? So the first part of our life, most of us are desperately building an identity, not knowing that we are building a false identity. The true identity is already here. I am. That which is aware of me, being, is always here. Try to get rid of that. You with me there? Mm-hmm. So, where did I start? Layers of the mind. Penetrating the layers of the mind. Moving, yeah, we started here. The identity, the identification. This is where the model of the chakras can be quite helpful. No? We are projecting an image into the world, and then we act according to how we see things. And if you ask anyone here how you see, for example, Osho's paintings, everybody will have a different viewpoint. No? Some would say childish, some would say beautiful colors, some would say, really, Osho, wow. But the same painting. So the way we build a person is quite arduous, if you remember. We have to go to school, we have to learn something, we have to become, we have to, excel, or if we're not good, then at least we are the worst, and we fail and we get thrown out of school. But there's always the becoming intrinsic in the whole life. No? And then we can fail or we can succeed, and all of this is terrible because we always want to choose one side of our life. We want to choose the good, we don't want the bad, the right, not the wrong, and so on. And we completely forget that what we are actually searching for by becoming somebody better is already here. I am. I am. Now, some of us wake up spontaneously. Like Osho apparently woke up spontaneously. He was just sitting there meditating, doing all sorts of exercises and sadhanas. And when the truth hit him, he stopped everything. He was just relaxing for the first time. Just, even eating meat. I just recently read a report of his awakening. He just kind of, he went just exactly with what his body asked for. You know, before that he had a total strong discipline with vipassana and getting up in the morning at 4 o'clock and running 5 miles exactly and so on. And when he realized, I've always been this, then the effort of becoming simply dropped. And if you read any story, if you read the story of the Buddha, it's the same thing. He, the Buddhists have misunderstood this, many, because for 6 years he was searching like hell. He was practicing all the sadhanas that different teachers gave him, and he was better than the teachers, but it didn't free him. And at a certain point, the last sadhana was starving himself, called fasting. And he got so weak that he couldn't cross a river. So he just schlepped himself out of the water and rested under a tree for the first time. He's just stopped. And all the effort stopped, and all the practice stopped, and all the meditation stopped. And he realized, my God, I'm hungry. And since existence is kind of very benevolent, there was this girl bringing a cup of milk. And he had already, I think, a few disciples. And they were honoring because he's such a sincere seeker and he fasts. He took the glass of milk and gulped it down because it was so nice. And all his disciples left because now he betrayed his practice. It's very significant in a way, you know? Because who we are on that level doesn't attract egos. It's interesting, I never heard myself say that one. Mm. Who we are doesn't attract egos. So egos get attracted to other egos. No? Now, what attracted us to Osho, for example? The mystery, the crazy India, the outlandish appearance, all of that. But what really attracted us is the true self, the empty space, the open nothingness. And that's why at the beginning there were not many, but then it kind of exploded. And now, if I look, so you all have probably seen a few videos from Moji. Now Moji attracts 2,000-3,000 people in Rishikesh. I think it's fantastic. It's like, oh, wow. So there must be something deeper than the ego that follows a call to India. Like here are a few that followed a very early call. We were kind of the hippies and everybody called us crazy. But now the call is much bigger. No? And all Moji talks is pointing to the I am. And he vibrates it. And that's very attractive. Why? Because that within us that simply is resonates with the isness of each other, not with the ego of each other, not with the story of each other, not with the drama. Do you find that sometimes that when you are in the drama that you're actually quite tired of your own drama? No? Of this mind that tells you a repetitive story just to maintain a sense of self that we are not. But it keeps us occupied. It keeps us in the hamster wheel. Maybe Maybe if I do this process, then I will be free. Maybe if I go to, I don't know whom, there are some famous teachers out there. Joe Dispenza is very in this moment. And ultimately, we may have to exhaust the seeker and realize that the seeker itself gives way to the formless within us, that then manifests in form in a very different way. The ego manifests in all our problems because, like Steve's book says so beautifully, life actually begins when resistance ends. So the ego is made mainly out of resistance, mainly out of judgments, mainly out of division of good and bad and right and wrong and high and low. And so we started with the identity, but the identity can only be supported through repetitive beliefs. And we all carry all sorts of beliefs and believe that they are true. But every belief has a doubt. I don't know if you read this. When Mother Teresa died, they found her diary. And she was one of the best advertisers for God. No? And in her diary, every page is full of intense doubt. But nobody knew this. She's been kind of honored as the great saint. And when we were in Pune and Osho talked about Mother Teresa, I was always cringing a little bit because he really cut her head. No? And somehow I had the feeling, well, she's doing fantastic work with the orphans. And Osho revealed it as pure politics because she first had to convert the Hindu orphans to Christians and then she would take care of them. Very tricky. No? The politics of numbers. Now, I'm sure she did a lot of good things too, but I think it's very good to see where not other people's ego, but my own ego shows its head. And that's why it's very helpful if you get triggered. If somebody triggers you and your ego starts working and your automatic, spontaneous ego repair mechanism starts running, we know it. No? We try to repair the false me, and it's very shaky, the false me. Anyone can challenge it because it's fragmented. It's made out of these endless clusters of different thoughts. Who am I without my thought? Who are you without your thought? Who am I without my beliefs? Who am I without my projections? Who am I without my ideals? Who am I without my strategies of defense? Who am I without my psychological traumas of the inner child? It's a, there's a certain reality to it, but actually it is all within the non-real self. Who am I? Now it gets interesting. Now I don't know that yet, but who am I without my body? I can only tell when my body is gone, but before that, all the other who am I's, if you peel the onion, if you discard everything that we thought we are, what is left? We're still here. The I am is still here. Are you with me? It's a little bit intellectual or mental what I'm saying, but when the mind understands a little bit of it, it is more easy for it to surrender to this. And that which is here when everything else is gone, the interesting thing is that can still be recognized. I heard Osho say when awareness does not is no more aware of any content. What is content? Body, feeling, emotion, sensation, senses, thoughts. When all this is kind of discarded, then all it's left is that awareness becomes aware of itself. That's what he called enlightenment. Nothingness becomes aware of nothingness. Space becomes aware of space. Love becomes aware of love. It's all the same. Is that too complicated? So that's the invitation. In a moment we're just going to sit for a little bit, for about 20 minutes, I would say, or around. And if you want to play with it, the invitation, of course, originally and always first in meditation is let everything be as it is. Stop trying to change anything. Thoughts come, let them be. Feelings come, let them be. Body sensations come, let them be. Let everything be. The ego doesn't like that. The ego will start screaming sometimes, yeah, but what about me? Oh, I need to scratch a little bit. Or I think of my problems. Or, I'm going back to that person that was unfriendly to me on the market. Anything to distract. But if you allow these thoughts, they come and go. And more, our attention may rest on that which is space. Now this the I cannot do. The ego cannot manage that because the I is the limitation. But that which slowly awakens when we just allow everything to be is already space, is already awareness. You don't need to seek it, it's there. It's who we are. And perhaps, I'm always hesitant to make any promises, but this is how people recognize, when everything else is gone, there is peace. When everything else is simply observed, then even there is peace in the middle of a storm. That even there is silence in the middle of the biggest rage. And even there is space in the biggest constriction. I don't know if did anybody have an individual session with me? You had. Yeah, I don't know if I guided you to the core of this. With him I did it a few times. It's like you can use any issue, any emotional problem, any difficulty, when you move from the thought, from the story, to the experience, through the experience, into the deepest intensity of what the mind calls suffering, and you're not budge, you're not go away from it, you're not try to shift it, you're not try to make it better, something very strange happens. It's like, and then something happens that the mind cannot label, so the mind calls it, there is nothing, or there is peace, or I feel such a relief. There's different words that point that quantum jump from something to nothing. So when we meditate, when we sit, we don't do anything of that. We just allow everything to be and see what happens. And please don't judge yourself. It's like, otherwise you can judge me too. Often when I sit, from the outside, and even almost from the inside, it looks like I'm sleeping. Because meditation and sleep is very close together. And yet there is this field of awareness that continues. So if you suddenly disappear, don't worry. You're not a wrong meditator. You just, the human form, the human brain just switches off, if you're lucky. And the more it switches off, the more the truth of you is revealed. Now I need to add something to this, because otherwise we sit. But why would I want to wake up at all? Why would I bother with this? Then I'm dysfunctional. No, we are not. Because that I am is the source of all our gifts. Whatever your gifts are, whatever you already like to do, will be totally enhanced when the little me is not there. Then all your gifts are in service of the infinite. That's the good news. That's why I recommend it. So shall we sit a little? Does it make sense here around the world? Can you follow this? You can write questions. Steve is here again, our beautiful support, and if there's any question for later, we can address them. No? Oh, you can click it. So you can close the eyes and just notice, the moment we close the eyes, there's different experiences that maybe want to draw our attention. And you just allow everything. And a good way is perhaps to get into the mode, is to become aware of all the senses. It's like we're hearing in this moment. We are feeling the body sitting here. We are breathing. Just here. We just allow everything to be as it is. And anything that catches your attention, if you like, you can be curious, like an inner question, well, what is deeper than this experience? And what is deeper than this experience? And what is deeper than this experience? Until we reach nowhere, until we reach that which is deeper than all experience. The only, let's say the only thing, but it's a no thing, the only no thing that is always here. Like you all agreed, there's something unchanging within since we were children. Rest here. feel this peace. Feel this silence. Feel this space that we all share in this moment. Effortless. Everything comes and goes in this space. We're just here. Just now. And in a moment when we come a little bit more into the body, and when we come back and we'll open our eyes, just stay alert, just stay watching. Is that which is aware, that which is behind all experience, that which, what we call it, the witness very often. Can that go anywhere? Can that change? Can that disappear or reappear? And we can take a deep breath, gently becoming aware of the body again, feeling the body. Body is still here. Maybe stretching a little. Oops. could sit longer, no? But maybe we can kind of explore a little bit in a dialogue or in questions or in reports that you may have, or anybody that is in the online meeting, if you have any questions or any reports, our Steve will read, and then all we can do in the dialogue is actually pointing in many different ways, again and again, to that which is here. And you will always find that behind the story, you are here, I am here, always here, eternally here. We are never later or earlier, we're always here. And how much effort we make to not be here and worry about the next moment. So after a while, the inward movement is so compelling. No? We don't really want to go out anymore. Feel free.
Can you talk about the difference between mindlessness and meditation? Is there a difference?
The difference between mindlessness and meditation. The question is, can I talk about the difference between mindlessness and meditation? Meditation doesn't discard the mind or tries to be mindless or has any purpose other than allowing that which is, and in that allowing that which is, mindlessness is okay and mind is okay. Thought are okay and no thought are okay. I think the biggest misunderstanding that I had for a long time is that I shouldn't have any thoughts. Not realizing that who I truly am is never obscured. It is not gone when mind is there. It's like the sky is not gone when a cloud obscures it. We don't see it, but it's still there. So when I understand your question right, it's like meditation is simply an, how to say, a bridge that then hopefully will be not needed anymore as a separate practice, but as something that is an awareness that is always with us in the background. And if you just inquire at any given moment in any situation, whether you're very happy or very unhappy, that which is aware is still always here. It's just our attention is not there. When we realize the I am, that which is behind all experience, is always here, and our attention moves more to that which is more of space or of the formless rather than the form, then the division simply disappears, because there's only one space. It's like, I don't know if you notice that, or if you experience similar. When we are sitting, at first the little me is there, that I do meditation, I'm sitting quiet. But then when you don't act on any impulse, when you're just here, present, then there's no more I, no more you. There's just this wonderful field of, you can call it the Buddha field, a field of nothingness, but it's not really nothing, it's very full. It's full of presence. And presence is kind of, at least for me, it's quite beautiful, quite touching. It has many words. We can call it love, we can call it God, we can call it presence, we can call it consciousness, we can call it awareness. It's all the same no thing. It's all the same that is not an object. So when meditation, many of us who have been meditating a lot, we have also made meditation an object where the me, the ego, can attach itself to. Now I'm a meditator. And now I can succeed if I don't have a thought, and I can fail if I have a thought. At least this is what was my case. I got so frustrated in meditation because the little self still wanted to get something, where meditation is actually the same as isness. What is, and I am that. And whether I'm mindless or mindful doesn't make any difference to who I am. Does it make sense? Yeah? It's like the universe, the empty sky doesn't have any interpretation about anything that appears in it. It just appears and disappears. And that's quite relaxing. And what our little ego does is, like, when something comes, especially when we had a desire and it comes, we feel happy, but this happiness is very conditional. And then when it goes, we feel unhappy. Same with relationship. We fall in love. Why is it called falling in love? Why isn't it called rising in love? Because we fall out of freedom into bondage. Deliberately. No? That's why it's called falling. It doesn't have to be a falling. Okay, if we can be completely present, and the presence as two gets enhanced, as I don't know how many we are here, but it gets enhanced the more people are present. That's why Buddha field has been so helpful. And how did we get there? With mindlessness.
Well, I was just
and
wondering, because
meditation.
there's a lot of teachings about mindlessness, not so
Yeah.
So I was wondering whether you had a separation
No.
between how you sit in meditation and people who are learning mindlessness as a technique.
Yeah. Well, I think they call it mindfulness.
Mindfulness.
Yeah. I prefer, I prefer mindlessness. That's a much better name, because mindfulness implies that the mind is full. Yeah, they're famous mindful teachers. Now, it's the same how I mixed up what Osho was saying when he talked about awareness, because often, at least this is now my interpretation, I don't exactly know how he meant it, but when we say, when now you are unaware and now you are aware, it's not quite true. Awareness is always here, but now you're present to awareness, and now you're absent to awareness, and you're identified with the story, but awareness is still there. Does that make sense? Yeah. So language becomes tricky. That's why Eckhart Tolle doesn't talk so much about awareness. He just talks about presence, here now. This place and this moment. Nothing else is real. And in a way, we all know this. You notice what happens to you when somebody comes to you with an intense suffering story that has nothing to do with now. And you try to be compassionate, but really you just want to say, hey, wake up. Which is, of course, not very compassionate, but maybe sometimes it could be helpful. Hey, you're not here right now. What is here? That has been for me the most important question when I was really kind of disturbed, and my mind would go through all kind of judgments and stories about a certain situation or a person. The moment to catch it, okay, but what is here? Well, I am here. What is here? A feeling is here. Was it here before? No. Will it be here after? No. It comes and it goes. Every experience comes and goes. Do I come and go? The true I am. Does it come and go? It doesn't come and go. So that must be me. The Buddha called it, the three, I don't know how you called it. He called it the three limitations or something. Attachment, which means there is an event or a feeling or a sensation we attach to that creates anxiety because eventually it will go. Or we reject it, that creates anxiety because we resist what is, and whatever we resist persists. And then not knowing the difference between the two. It's quite simple. And the more we become again, language is not become. The more we are here, we are present, the less attachment is there. And the more love is there. So when we fall in love, we fall into the ego. When we rise in love, we are free. That's the challenge. And I tell you, that's a very challenging thing to help couples to explore, especially when they make love. That's my favorite Tantra course. Because the, the whole system of man and woman is, of course, the attraction. And the attraction is by life, is attracted to life because it creates more life through sex. But when that attraction moves into different dimensions, then it turns into love. And then it turns into presence, and it turns into awareness. And then that's why I called the next Tantra group here Awakening Through Love, not awakening to love. Yes, there's a question.
Sajjad Gunter.
Ah, Sajjad. Hi, Sajjad. You're one of ein treuer Mitarbeiter, we say in German. No?
He says, if I am not the watcher, when watching is happening, what happens when the body dies? Where does watching disappear?
Well, Sajjad, maybe you can tell me when you die, or maybe I can tell you when I die. I just have a strong sense that that which is aware is beginningless and endless, so it cannot die because it was never born. No? But now when I talk about it, it's a concept. I need to die first to see. I see it through other people that died. I see it through Nura that apparently the body went. Obviously the body went. But wherever there's love and light, for me, it's a fragrance that I can still call Nura. It's a fragrance. It's a climate. It's it's love. So I don't really exactly experientially know the answer to that. But I have a strong sense. And when you investigate Sajjad, when you look inside and look, and maybe you can practice this, you can explore this at your home in your next meditation, that you take anything away that is an object in awareness. This is beautiful mantra, Chitananda Rupam, Shivoham, Shivoham. When Deva Premal sings that, it's like she has this whole long sentences where Shiva says, I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not my body, I'm not my thought, I'm not my feelings, I'm not my beliefs, I'm not my story, I'm not. And then he thinks, Chitananda Rupam, Shivoham, Shivoham. I am, Chit is consciousness. It's not shit, it's Chit, consciousness. Sat is truth, truth. Sat, Chit, Ananda, and Ananda is bliss. That's all I am. Everything else is not what I am. And you can make it, I played this with you, but if you want, we can play it again. You can play it by moving back and forth from the object to that which is aware of the object. No? I think we played this before. You all can see the picture. So there's the object, there's the sensory experience of seeing, and then there's the I behind it. Now that's object The seeing is a sensory experience. What is the I, Sajad? What is it that can say I? Is I an object? No. Is I a sensory experience? No. What is the I? Does this I have a beginning? Does I have an end? Nobody has found a beginning or an end. Objects have a beginning. Events have a beginning and end. Experiences have a beginning and end. We just look very, very clearly into the I that we say, I am. That which I ask at the beginning is always here. It's the same thing. I am always here. Now Ramana said it also so beautiful, and we couldn't understand it. At least I couldn't understand it. He took it to a very extreme. He had throat cancer, who he couldn't eat anymore, and his disciples were, really, really sad and tried to support him and help him. Like, dear master, I'm so sorry, you cannot eat anymore. So what's the problem? I am you, so you eat for me. From the human ego perspective, it's crazy. From the perspective of the true I am, it makes total sense. And then they're asking, but where do you go when the body goes? Where shall I go? I was always here. I will always be here. If you tune into me, you will find me. I have the same thing with Osho. If you have been in love with Osho, if I tune into Osho, he's here. Not just through videos and discourses, like this glimpse of unique quality of consciousness as expression. And I think this is good news, because if we really understand essentially our eternity, it cancels many things. It cancels fear. What is there to be afraid of? It cancels all need for the ego to become better. Which means it surrenders our life to that which is already alive, to the nature. And nature is so abundant. Why not we? If we surrender, if the ego kind of just steps back and lets existence flow, we may be much more capable even to make money or to attract the right partner or anything that we would like, because the little me is not there as a hindrance. Does that make sense? And of course, the old little self is scared like hell, because if you follow this within yourself, that will die, and that's the only thing we are afraid of. Does that help, Sajat? Oh, can you do me a favor? There is this cable, the white cable, to stuck it in here, and I need to stuck it in here, otherwise my video stops.
We have a question.
Yeah.
Tomoko.
Tomoko-san.
You want to read it down?
Okay.
Two.
Tomoko-san. Tomoko, I love my kids, but my feeling...
No, the one above that one.
Tomoko, I have 3 kids, and sometimes I feel so tired. I couldn't feel love, just anger. When I had anger for my kids, I feel so sad and dark feelings. I understand that. Does that work? Yeah. Good. Any mother here? Yeah. Can you feel compassion for Tomoko-san? You see, our kids are kind of newer editions of consciousness. You know? And before they are conditioned through the ideas of the parents, they are totally wild and free. And now every parent in the best intention wants to educate the kid, you know? Wants to kind of tell the kid and share and teach social behavior. You know? So we are very keen on making our children somehow members of this society. But the society is not enlightened. The society has many, many limiting rules. And as mother, you are afraid when your children don't follow the rule that you think is right. But that rule that you think is right is a construct of your ego. It's not wrong. It's not right. It's like from there you move into right and wrong. And whenever your children do not correspond to your idea of right, you get triggered and you get angry. Can you follow that? Yeah. And what gets angry? It is your threatened sense of self that your children intuitively want to destroy because they want the real you. They don't want, a programmed parent that has all these ideas how the children should be. And as children are not so covered by so much conditioning as we are as adults, they are already more free and push our buttons. So when you feel tired and you don't feel love and just anger, great. There's one thing you can do so that you don't need to feel so sad about it. The anger is in you. Your children, it's hard to understand, hard to really practice, but I would recommend. The anger is in you. The children are a situation in which your anger arises. Now take responsibility. If you throw your anger on your children, I would get sad too. You hurt them and you hurt yourself. But you're angry, so live the anger. Say to your children, wait a minute, you guys stay here. Mama needs to go in the next room and need to take a big cushion and release the anger as much as possible. Scream and yell and shout, and if the energy is strong. And then when the anger has become alive and subsided, then you can go back to your children and say, I enjoyed that one. I didn't know I have so much energy. And your children will say, wow, Mom, what happened? No? Mom, really? No? So just this little piece that your children are not responsible for how you feel, and your partner either. That's a difficult one. Huh? we rather want the partner to be responsible for how I feel. And every love song sings that, you make me feel so good. And you make me feel so bad. It's not true. No? You're the situation in which a well-being arises or a bad feeling arises. But beyond the good and bad, and this is really important, I'm sure you have that too. It's like there's some things that bothered you a few years ago that just brought you into immense rage. And now when the same situation happens, you stay undisturbed. Not out of an effort, but it just doesn't catch you anymore. You have that? That's called wisdom. Yeah. And it grows until you are completely transparent. Until, I don't know if we ever will be completely transparent. I experienced Osho also angry one day when somebody in Buddha Hall with 3,000 people just laughed in the wrong moment. He said, "This is not of the joke," and he left. Just left 3,000 people. He was pissed off. So, no? So we all have a personality. There's nothing wrong with it. That's kind of the game of life. But the more empty we are of the identification, and that is something that is really helpful, the more you rest as the true self. And that is Satchitananda. That is. It feels true, it feels effortless, it feels loving, it feels just home. Unfortunately, the ego doesn't trust that. That's why it has to create so many rules. And now when we look at the world, I mean, what a collective story are we believing here with COVID-19? It's incredible. I don't want to go into that story. But it's a huge story. And it pulls, the collective mind out into identification on all levels. On the positive one and on the negative one. There are all these conspiracy theories, and then there's all the fears that, the pandemic just destroys the whole humanity. It's a story. This may be a very good thing to explore. Who are we? Who am I without the COVID-19 story? Just imagine the whole population of the world starts asking that question. Because I'm still here. Tumoka, do you understand that?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, good. Yeah. And I think your children and your relationship partner are probably the best, or the family members are the best tests for your awakening. There may be many, many things that don't trigger you anymore. But these people are the best teachers. They can trigger you. And your children are, I'm sure, they are very forgiving. Especially in Japan, they're so fortunate to grow up in Japan, because there's a lot of care and a lot of love and a lot of presence. Yes. Anything else? Tomoko writes, I love my children, but my feeling sometimes cannot love them. I like that. I really like that you say both in the same sentence. I love my children, but the feeling cannot love. Yeah. So then that's not a feeling, that's a conditioned emotion that is mixed up as love. And behind that is the true love. That is unconditional. And Tomoko-san and anybody else, that's who we truly are. We are looking for unconditional love, and usually it's not real, it's sugar over shit, it's trying to be nice, it's kind of smoothing out because we are afraid to be rejected. True love is our essence, is our nature, it is our being, it is a somebody tries to call me, must be God.
What did you answer? You could have got another answer.
Maybe I upset somebody who was from New Zealand.
The COVID question strikes again.
Probably. Where we are the love and the feeling of love. Now I really like that, Tomoko-san, because love is not a feeling. Take a breath. Attraction, romance, beating hearts, that's all feelings. But love is space. Love is who we are. Love is here when everything else disappears. It just has different words. And when love meets love, when we rise in love, and when love meets something else, it disguises itself as love and gives rise to jealousy, gives rise to possessiveness, gives rise to mutual controlling, gives rise to all the abominations of love. Yeah. But if you love me, you should behave this in this way. You know this one? So you don't love me. That's why I hate you. We're funny creatures. We're mixing this up because, first it's a strange thing. First we love, and then we fall. We don't fall in love. We fall out of love into codependency, into the prison, and then we have even organized prisons called marriage. Forgive me. Yeah. The state gives you a stamp. It's such a misunderstanding. I remember Nura and me, we were 25 years together, unmarried. And we only married because Nura's more like a celebration for love after 25 years. And the joke was that basically Nura's mother told Nura, make sure you are married before you get 50. And we married one day before Nura got 50. Because in a way we were very, very lucky to find each other at the feet of Osho. So from the very beginning our relationship vow, if you like, was not, I will be with you till death does us part. It was as when we are at the feet of love and truth, and love and truth keeps us together, we stay together. If love and truth moves us somewhere else, we move somewhere else. And it kept us together, and it kept growing and growing and growing. Some of you remember more, I think. So there is a potential of disappearing as love more and more, of becoming more and more transparent. And the more the ego is in the background, the more love can move through our actions. You know, if you ever watch Osho do something, or if you watch somebody who is very present do something, then the action itself provokes a loving response in us. It's like, wow. I have that often in Japan, actually. You know, in Japan, they have this magenta quality of the love into little things. When they, for example, a beautiful sushi plate. You know? It's optically beautiful. It is wonderfully made. It is. They have the right. They have. It's crazy. The Japanese restaurants have, you know, for one meal they have 20 plates per person, different little dishes and containers and bowls, and everything is so loving. Now it can become an egoic habit, then it's not fun anymore, then it's obsessive. So when the ego grasps that, it becomes obsession. But when it's the flow of creativity, because the person is empty, it's incredibly beautiful.
Is your battery charged too? Because they're saying the fan on the computer makes a lot of noise.
Ah, the
Just
fan.
unplug it.
Oh,
Go
the
quiet.
fan makes noise.
And then, yeah, they're saying it's very loud. Because the mic's right there.
Ah, I'm sorry about that. Okay, let's try. Let's unplug it. But the fan continues and the battery is almost empty.
Okay.
So, sorry. It's a try out with the computer. Maybe it's not the right thing to do. Let's sit a little bit to just complete this. And when we're sitting, just turn your attention onto space, or for the female expression, space is love. So turn your attention to the formless in which any experience appears and disappears. So when your attention is on the body, turn your attention on the space around and permeating the body. Turn your attention to that which loves and holds the body in love. If your attention goes to a thought, turn your attention to the space in which the thought appears and disappears. If your attention is on an emotion, maybe you got triggered somewhere, turn your attention to the space in which the emotion has appeared and disappeared. It's the same as if we would say turn your attention to the awareness of the emotion. In the moment I prefer the word space or love because awareness is so charged, it has so much should in itself. And perhaps there's moments when awareness becomes aware of itself. And there's no more object to be aware of. And love loves itself. Rest here. It's infinite. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for being with us. And we see each other again next Friday, if you like. Same time, same place. Different person, different personality, different clothes, different makeup. One being, same being. Thank you. There's tea and cookies outside. And thank you, all of you here online. Namaste. And sorry for the computer noise. We work on it.